Secrets of Digital Excellence Revealed, Insider Insights from the Top 25 U.S. Retailers. This ought to be great. Using detailed findings of consumer-driven experiences with the top 25 U.S. retailers. This session is going to uncover blind spots in the retail strategy, what customers really think about their digital interactions, how retailers stacked up against each other, and the secret strategies of top performers. Specifically, Bobby's going to examine the key drivers of customer engagement and how to leverage the insights to enhance the customer experience in the digital strategy. So please welcome to the stage Bobby Meixner. He's the Senior Director of Enterprise Solutions Marketing for UserTesting. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you. First of all, why are we all here, right? Let's just kind of establish that. This is Commerce Next. It's the growth show. We're here to grow our businesses. How do we do that, right? Well, we invest in our customer experiences. And we're all here to try to pick up best practices on how to do that. And certainly one of them is figuring out what our customers actually think. What do our competitors' customers actually think about their customer experiences? One of the things that stood out to me, did anybody attend the two Z Suite sessions that happened earlier? Right, they were packed. So I thought it was really interesting, really kind of for two main reasons. One, it was just interesting insight, right? It was good to hear their perspective. But number two, they were two of probably the most well-attended sessions, right? People were packing in, it was standing room only, they were hanging on every word, trying to pick up the insights, feverishly taking notes. And as I was sitting there watching the session, I'm like, you know, this is great, we love this, but that's exactly what we do in digital form, right? So if you're asking yourself, who is UserTesting and what do we do? We're basically like a digital focus group, right? We help you understand what it's like to be your customer or your competitor's customer. What do they truly think of the experiences that you're delivering in their own terms? And we do this through feedback that really comes in mainly the form of think out loud videos. And we'll talk more about that and we'll show some examples in a moment. But these are some of the customers we work with. We probably work with many of you in the audience, whether you know it or not, to some degree. We have over 3,000 customers. We run over 300,000 studies a year. And we have panelists that participate in those studies that represent a large global audience, so you can always get feedback from exactly the right audience. So speaking of feedback, everyone's looking at ways to outperform, pick up best practices, so we thought it would be interesting to take a look at the digital experiences of the top 25 US retailers. And that's what's in the benchmark report that we released yesterday, and we're going to be walking through those findings. So here's a sampling, or actually here's all of the retailers' sites that we went out to take a look at. We conducted a pretty massive study. Over 2,700 participants participated in the study, and we wanted to see how successful and what they thought of 4 main tasks, pretty common e-commerce tasks. So the 4 tasks that we tested and got feedback on was, can you find a product that you would normally buy on this site? Find a gift for Mother's Day. We did this around the Mother's Day shopping timeframe, so this is really fresh data from this year. Find something that can be fulfilled ASAP, whether it is being delivered to your house or available for pickup in store. And then finally, checkout. So that's what we really took a look at, and we did it evenly split across both the mobile, web, and desktop experiences of these brands. So we're gathering think out loud feedback. But we actually take things a step further in terms of how do we actually measure experience quality. We have our own metric that we've basically patented to help you measure experience quality and actually put a number on it. And we call that the QX score, or the quality of experience score. It's a single score that combines essentially behavioral as well as attitudinal data and spits out a score from 0 to 100. So the behavioral side of it is how well were the participants able to actually get through the tasks? What was their success rate? How long did it take them? That sort of thing. We'll get into the results in a moment. That's 50% of the score. The other piece of it is attitudinal. How did they feel about it? Did they like the look and feel? Was it easy to use? Is it a trustworthy experience? Is it something that they would recommend to a friend? So we incorporate elements of NPS and CSAT into the QX score to help measure that experience. So what did we uncover? What did we find? Well, let's get into it. Let's take a look here. The first finding, all good news, right? So all of the hard work that everybody has been putting into their customer experiences, optimizing their digital experiences over the past decade plus is paying off, right? So the vast majority of all of the participants were able to complete the tasks. They were able to do the shop online. Shoppers have absolutely mastered the shopper journey. So really, really high success rates across the board. So in some ways, right, that's good because people are doing what we want them to do on the site. But in other ways, it's challenging us all to think a little deeper about how do we actually differentiate the customer experience? What's it going to take to stand out against our competitors? And that can, of course, be done through the types of qualitative insight that you can gather from user testing. But things are not completely perfect. When we took a deeper look into some of these areas, we actually found that 41% of the people taking the test encountered obstacles or friction somewhere along their journey. And obviously we know that friction impacts conversion rate, satisfaction, that sort of thing. So we're always wanting to eliminate that, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But let's get into an example of what somebody considered friction, and that brings us to number 2 here. So number 2 is really around how folks are incorporating sponsored content, ads, pop-ups into their site. Some are doing it really well, others are doing it not so well, and it's having a big impact on the loyalty scores. So if we take a look at some of the details here, this is a little bit of an eye chart, but of all of the metrics that we looked at across parts of the study here in terms of what people found helpful, what they liked, what they didn't like, sponsored content ranked fairly low. And it's not to say that you shouldn't do sponsored content, right? I mean, it's really been a big part of experiences. It's highly profitable, but it's something that you want to test carefully, wade into carefully, kind of test your way through it, and figure out what is the right approach. Now, we'll take a look at some videos here shortly about why this might have ranked lower, and you can drill into the qualitative feedback in terms of what's resonating. But then the question becomes, okay, so 41% ran into obstacles. Our site's pretty clean. What's the real impact here? That really brings us to the third finding, which I find fairly interesting when we drill into some of the details here. Obviously, obstacles impact experience quality, right? And that has a fairly dramatic effect on the likelihood of a shopper coming back and making a return purchase, right? And this has a massive impact on customer acquisition costs, retail health, profitability. We all know it's obviously easier to retain a customer than it is to attract a new one. So when we look at the data, even a small number of obstacles had a fairly significant impact on somebody's likelihood to return. So if somebody ran into just 2 or more obstacles in their journey, they were 34% less likely to come back and visit the site. Now, what obstacles were they running into? We talked about sponsored content, but one of the things that also stood out to me were that the basics still matter, right? Every time we go to one of these retail tech conferences, what are we hearing about? We're hearing about personalization and AI and all of these advanced capabilities that we can incorporate into our site to make the experience better. And those all provide value, but it's always important to make sure that we're getting the basics right. And I think this really does a nice job of driving that home. I was frankly surprised to see that some of these were so high around the site not loading, not being able to find an item, searching and filtering caused some confusion, and folks were kind of still struggling with some of the navigational elements. And these are the types of things that leveraging testing early on in the development phase before you actually deploy designs and concepts can have real value. So let's take a look at these obstacles and the retailers involved and where they rated. So on this chart here, down at the bottom, you're seeing the QX score. So as I mentioned before, lots of good news in terms of people being able to accomplish their shopper journey. And these QX scores are all very, very high. So nobody scored lower than an 81 in the study overall, which is a good experience. You've got Amazon, Walmart, Target really, really leading the way there. They've streamlined their processes really, really well. Very, very few obstacles being encountered in that journey. And then even down with the lower performers, not a ton of obstacles, but still opportunity to make an impact. So when you look at this, you wonder, okay, well, what do I do? What's the real action here that may come out of this? Let's take a look at some of the things that we can see, and we'll use Tractor Supply as an example. So I talked about the QX score, the quality of experience score. This is an example of the scorecard that gets produced within the platform at the end of a study. So when I mentioned that it was kind of like NPS on steroids, this is really what I mean, right? It's a bit more actionable. NPS is great because you know how well you're doing. You just don't necessarily know where you need to continue doing well or what you need to do better. Here, if we break this down, at the top, you can see the behavioral element of the study. So all 4 tasks are listed there. Very, very high success rates on desktop, very high success rates on mobile. Not a lot of probably action needed there. In the middle section, you have the attitudinal area. So this is where you're getting information on the usability, the appearance, the likelihood that somebody is going to recommend, and you can see down at the bottom a description of each of those areas. So if I'm looking at making an improvement to this digital experience, or if I'm looking to see what I'm doing well that I should keep doing, I know exactly what areas I need to drill into. If I'm looking to improve, well, let's take a look at the loyalty area, right? It looks like they scored lower in terms of somebody's likelihood to actually recommend the site. All right, why, right? Why, right? So that's really what we are here to answer. So let's take a look at some of the feedback. So if we take a look here, you can see some of the top problems or frustrations. So very similar to frustrations that we saw in the overall study. Some of the quotes that came back around the site having some loading issues, some of the pictures didn't load, some folks had a hard time searching for certain terms. But if we hear it in their own words, here we can see an example of the video that gets produced as part of running a study where this guy is trying to find the Mother's Day gift guide. So let's take a quick look at what he has to say based upon his experience.
Oh, Mother's Day gift guide. Ooh, look at this. Shop now. Okay, I've got it.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well, I'd like to do Mother's Day gift guide, but I click on it, nothing happened.
So real quick, basic example, right, of an obstacle that's creating some friction that's probably going to impact whether or not he even makes a purchase or is willing to recommend it. Another example here around just the overall look and feel.
I gotta say right off the bat, already this website is pretty cluttered. You know, it's a little overwhelming. You know, I'm inundated with lots of pop-ups immediately, including on the bottom here. Not to mention there's a lot just right when we land on this page, just right here. A lot of things are moving very quickly. There's a lot to read. Yeah, a little overwhelming. So it would be nice if the categories were, a little higher, just in terms of being able to navigate through the site a little easier. And also, I would like to see these categories actually just laid out in front of me instead of this kind.
So another example of video-based feedback, and obviously we have videos from everyone who was part of the study. Now you might be wondering, do I have to sit and watch each of these videos? How am I going to get this at scale? Well, the platform actually will go through and watch all the videos for you and generate a summary using AI of sentiment, what did people like, what are positive suggestions, what's creating friction. You can review the summary and then jump right into the video pieces where that particular feedback was given. So we take a lot of the labor out of going through and actually viewing these videos. All right, what else did we uncover? It wasn't all bad, right? There's early signs of a generational shift, right? Going back to changing preferences as part of, changing demographics across the country. So key areas to watch as Gen Z and millennials purchasing power grows. Here's what we uncovered across a few different categories. So in addition to going through the experience, we also asked them a few questions as well. Interesting things came out of it. So payments, 21% of Gen Z participants indicated that Apple Pay was their preferred method, and that was actually far and above any other payment method that was listed within the survey. So obviously being digital native perhaps has an influence there. Video content from social media and influencers plays a huge role in millennials' ability to be influenced or make a purchase decision more than any other cohort. So 59% for videos and 50% for social. And then from a fulfillment perspective, this one actually stood out to me as interesting. 24% of Gen Z participants indicated that in-store pickup was their preferred payment method, and that was actually less than many other cohorts. And as I was sitting in the panel earlier today, I heard somebody mention that they didn't really care if it took a week, if they bought online and it showed up in a week, they were okay with it. And that actually stood out in the study as accurate. So lots of details in the report. We don't have time to go through all of them, but the details matter, right? The devil is in the details. What I would encourage you to do is, go out, download the report, take a look at it. If you're one of our customers, we're happy to work with you, talk through the report, go through the results. If you're not one of our customers, we can take you through this same benchmark so you can take a look at what your score is relative to the folks that were included in the study or your own competitive set using your own set of tasks that might be specific to you. We have other examples of where the friction points were across the journey as well as what folks liked at our booth that you can visit us at booth number 157. All right, thank you very much.